consequences, people thinking about consequences. There are people who, most people do this, they catastrophize, right? They think of the worst case scenarios and then terrorize themselves with the worst case scenarios and cause depression and anxiety and panic attacks and dread and all sorts of horrible emotions that are based on assumptions about things that might happen and usually don't happen. And so this is the big what if thing. So people will sit around terrorizing themselves with full of fear and anxiety and panic. They immobilize themselves. They depress themselves thinking, oh, what if, I lose my job? Then I'll lose my house. Then I lose my family. Then I'm going to be homeless. Then I'm going to be, dead. And there'll be no one to mourn my passing. And, you know, they take it to the nth degree. The odds are none of those things are ever going to happen. And they spend hours, days, their whole lives are dreading and being full of fear about the future. And about futures that usually never happen. But if they are going to happen, terrorizing yourself about stuff that, when it's not happening is certainly not a good idea. But that's not the point I want to make here. I'm talking about consequences. I find it fascinating that people will spend, hours, days, years going into a catastrophic thought cycle, a fear cycle of all these what ifs and all these horrible things that might happen. They spend a lot of time obsessing and ruminating and terrorizing themselves, right? But they won't spend like 5 minutes thinking about the consequence of, going to somebody's hotel room on a first date, getting drunk, and ending up being date raped, for example. They don't think, give 5 minutes to think about, maybe it's not a good idea to walk, down a dark alley late at night by yourself. you know, that may be an extreme, exaggerated example, but the point is, people don't think about some really obvious, things that can happen. And when people are sloppy and impulsive and reckless and put themselves in precarious situations and hang out with unsavory people, hang out with people who are not your friends, who are not predictable, who you really don't trust or shouldn't trust, or you have no idea who they are. You don't really know them. You haven't met them. And now you're off and running, doing things with them, and then before you know it, they're telling you to get into the trunk, and you wind up like in a ditch somewhere. People don't think about the consequences of their most immediate actions, which can cause tremendous nightmares. They spend a lot of time thinking about things that never happen, or most likely will never happen. So that's the deal. Is stop thinking about the absurd, about catastrophic things that probably will never happen, and instead put your time and energy into thinking about the choices and the decisions that you make, the people you decide to hang out with, the people you decide to do business with, the people you decide to make commitments to, the people you decide to have relationships with. Pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to the choices you make. To pay attention to your actions and behaviors, because they can cause you to become a victim. They can cause you to have a real nightmare, and they can be avoided just by using common sense and paying attention and not letting your need for excitement or your need for companionship or your need for emotional closeness to block you from seeing what's really going on. All right, that's it for now. Thanks. Take care. Peace be with you. See you next time.